can't do this one. I can't do this one because I gave them all horrible names. Hold on. I'm not allowed to. I forgot I named them all so bad. They're all named so bad. Hold on. Wait, no. They're named like fuck shit and like fuck this guy. I hate him. Hold on. Let's go to the main menu. Yeah, I got. It's okay. It's okay. I have other plays. I can see their new save.
Tell McCoy now.
Yes.
What? Pashnae
Probably should do
kopraka.
Minecraft, honestly. Have a shameful save. Okay. Give me a countdown, Austin. Hey guys, thank you for coming to. Well, actually, let me restart because you guys were kind of forced to be here because Mr. Owen wanted us all to present something, and not that it's a bad thing, but anyway, let me. I'm getting off topic. Let me get back onto topic. Oh man, see that's a thing. ADHD. It's seen as a. Uh, okay, cut. This is getting cut out. Countdown again. Hello, guys. This is Simeon Jenkins here to tell you guys about ADHD for my project, our content creator project that Mr. Owen has given us. So, first, if we're going to talk about ADHD, I feel like we should talk about what ADHD is and how it is described, right? So, ADHD stands for Attention Deficient Hyperactivity Disorder. So, it's hard for people to pay attention and they're super active. People with ADHD have a harder time paying attention to things that don't interest them or make it hard for them to lock in on one topic, you know? And so, if I'm being honest, this topic has actually been very interesting for me. I enjoyed going through the podcast and looking up information. Even though I stayed on like Google, I didn't really do any deep going into it. Like I watched a few videos on YouTube and I got some insight from coworkers and people who have kids with ADHD or have ADHD themselves to see how it might as people, right? So, let's jump into it. So ADHD is seen as a disorder. And for some people, it's seen as not like it's not a disorder, it's just how their brain works or how the brain is. So we have some people who are against ADHD and feel like you should be medicated if you have it, and people who feel like they don't want to fit the standard just because they don't think the way you think, you know? So I tend to get off topic, like as I'm doing right now in the video. Don't worry about that. I'm just nervous. Just a little bit. I've never done something like this before and it's new. So bear with me. I may talk like repetitively and it may mess up, but just bear with me, guys. Bear with me. So, ADHD, hyperactive, no, attention deficient hyperactive disorder. It had a lot of names. Okay. ADHD had a lot of names like little boys, hyperactive little boys disease or something like that. Actually, I probably should restart. I'm gonna restart. God. Okay, I got it. I know the vibe. I know the vibe. I got it. I just gotta get back into it. Gotta keep my mind on track. So, okay. Hey guys, thank you for coming to watch my video about ADHD and the effects that it can have on people. Not really the effects, but we will dive into that, okay? So, if I'm going to talk about ADHD, I should tell you what it stands for. So, ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. And it sounds like it might be a bad thing at first, but just bear with me, we'll get into all of that. It's actually a really interesting topic for me. I don't know why, but it just is. But let me stop getting off the topic of why it's interesting and just talk about it, I guess. So, I watched a lot of videos on ADHD and I've seen like a lot of podcasts because of how intriguing it is for me, I guess you could say, because at a young age, I was diagnosed with ADHD, or they said I have like symptoms of ADHD. Menelik, what do you want? No! My fucking god, bro. Okay, I have to restart now. That shit pissed me off. So first, okay, actually, let me just do this. Hey guys, this is my video for a content creation project for Mr. Owen. My name is Simeon Jenkins and the topic I chose to go with was ADHD. ADHD has always been an interest for me, and so I do appreciate that this project gave me the opportunity to dive deep into what ADHD is and how some people view it. I've said ADHD a lot. The term is actually attention deficit hyperactive disorder. That's the general term for it. It had many names along the way, and it's shown up in throughout history. It's a really old, like, not, I don't want to say disease or disorder because I don't look at it like that, but a lot of people do. But it's been around for a really long time, and it was mainly seen in little boys who could not sit still or just couldn't pay attention for the life of them. So it had a name suggesting that only boys could get it. But with later research, we found out that, well, scientists have found out that it's not just boys who can get it, but girls. It's just seeing, like, they have different symptoms of it, or I guess you could say there are different ways they express their ADHD. So let me start with what does ADHD do and what are the three main symptoms that it has? Or not symptoms, but things that show up when you have it, right? So a person with ADHD is more likely to be forgetful, lose track of time, and be unorganized in their workspace. But they also have, crap, I messed up again in my brain. Sorry guys. Let me restart for you guys. I'm trying to make it chronological. Want it to like flow, that like it to flow into itself, you know? So let's see. Actually, I'll just do the intro later and then, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'll do the intro later because it needs to be a video of me anyway, and then I'll have to get that inside the, okay, yeah. So what is ADHD? ADHD is described as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Now, a lot of people like to say disorder, but a lot of people with ADHD don't see it as a disorder. I'm pretty sure it's a 50-50 split because it can mess with the way people get things done, but it can also just be a way their brain thinks and it just comes natural to them so they don't feel weird about it. So, ADHD is a common thing, I guess you could say, but not, well, for me, I don't know. Okay, ADHD. We're talking about ADHD. Okay, have you guys ever heard of ADHD? That's cliche, but it shouldn't matter. This is running into 20 minutes. This is crazy. Okay, let's see. Calm down. Calm down. Don't let your brain run wild. It's okay. I can't. Okay. Okay. Just focus. All you have to do. So, ADHD is a disorder that has to do with the brain and how it's wired. A lot of people don't like calling it a disorder, but for sake of convenience, we shall be calling it a disorder. a lot of people are seen to have ADHD, and it's become more like prele- prevalent. It's seen it's popping up more and more because it's like one of the most common disorders to be overlooked. Because back in the day, they didn't have the technology to diagnose people with ADHD, or unless you had symptoms like really heavy symptoms. Now, this might be a weird transition, so just bear with me. This is all new to me, but there are certain symptoms will show up in certain people and they won't show up in others. There are three different types of ADHD that types, I'm saying that in quotes because it's still ADHD. It's just these people are showing different symptoms or like taking different parts from it. So there's the most common one where it's called combined ADHD. That's where you're hyperactive and you you're hyperactive, very impulsive, and you have trouble staying focused and being on task. And then there's another type where you're hyperactive and more like crap, brain's doing it again. Sorry guys. You're hyperactive and you're not thinking about your actions, you're just doing, right? You're being impulsive. That's one that's two of the three. And then crap. Sorry. Let me restart, guys. Sorry. Okay. So, as you can see, I'm a little nervous, a little freaking out. This is weird for me. But I'm going to start back from the symptoms, the things that diagnose you or doctors will use to diagnose you. So we have the first type of ADHD, which is combined. That's where you're hyperactive, impulsive, and you lack attention. And then the second one is where you're hyperactive and impulsive, but you can stay focused on a task. And then the third one is where you can't stay focused on a task, but you're not hyperactive or impulsive, right? So those are three types. And back in the day, it was very hard for doctors to notice this, or like they couldn't diagnose it the right way. But due to early 2000s and the boost in medical technology, we're able to look at the brain and see how it how certain parts of it glow up when certain things happen to us. It's become easier for us to diagnose people with ADHD. So there's been a recent boom in cases where there are people with ADHD than there have ever been in the past. And a lot of people, it's happened since the corona quarantine. Lots of people have been getting diagnosed recently to see maybe they do have ADHD or not. It's become something of interest in today's society, right? So, let me tell you about some things like how it can affect people's lives, I guess I should say. There are many ways ADHD can affect someone's life. It can be negative or positive, but it could also. Oh, I didn't have to say but, did I? Because I did just kind of say what it is. So it can be negative or positive. It just depends on how it affects the person with ADHD. So people with ADHD are more likely to procrastinate. They're more likely to lose focus due to external forces or mind wander and daydream. They also have a hard time organizing, but they can bounce from topic to topic with ease. with right practice. So they're better suited for jobs in where they get gratification from it, like instant gratification, instead of doing long tasks such as, I guess, going to school, you could say. Like they want something with a more instant gratification than they have to wait to be gratified. So that's one thing. Sorry, guys. My little brothers came downstairs because they don't know how to stay where they should be after I tell them I have something I'm doing that's important. But anyway, where was I? I believe I was talking about how it can affect somebody differently, either in a positive or negative sense. But it all comes down to how they deal with it, you know? So if I remember correctly, I left off saying people with ADHD are more likely to get jobs or do things that gratify them or can hold their attention. Like, let's say they're better in a fast paced working environment because they have to bounce from one thing to another, and their brain already naturally does that. So there's less stress on them when it comes to jobs like that, right? But they'll have more trouble in a place where it's like a cubicle and they're just there, sitting there. They have a harder time focusing on the task at hand than other people would. Like, for me, or for anybody, not for me, but for people at school with like straight A's, they'll say just get the work done, do the work, it's easy, just focus. Like Jennifer has told me before, just focus on the work at hand. But the thing is, the brain for someone with ADHD does not actually work in a just, yeah, I can just focus. It's more of a, how do I explain it really? It's a, there was a way they explained it. Okay, so from some of the research that I've done, well, in a podcast, they talked about how people with ADHD have a hunter's brain, while some neurotypical people have a farmer's brain. They're better at staying put and just doing the work that needs to be done. Now, there are some ways for someone with ADHD to do that work, but it's more of a they have to tell someone they're going to do it, or someone has to hold them accountable for it, or they'll lose track of what they were supposed to do in the first place and wander off somewhere else. Like I said, it's a very interesting topic to talk about. I love how there are many points of views when it comes to ADHD. Me, I don't feel too badly or too strongly about it. I just feel like people with ADHD will have a harder but easier time in life. If they find something that they are actually interested in and passionate about, they can stick to it, and it brings them a constant like flow of instant gratification. Like people with ADHD are more likely to like science than math, because science, it's always something new for them to learn and something like fresh. It's always fresh for them. Whereas math, it gets stale and it gets repetitive and boring, and it's just numbers on numbers, and then they add letters, and then it's like, what is this? Why am I doing this? You know, it makes them less likely. But that's not to say ADHD people won't like math, because at the end of the day, people with ADHD are still people, and they still have like their opinions, and it's not like there's something wrong with their brain in the first place. It's just that if something they don't, if there's something that they don't like, or it doesn't interest them, or it can't grab at their attention, then they won't do it. They won't want to do it. They'll do it, but they might not want to, and then it's 10 times harder for them to stay focused on that topic. Like this project I've been putting on hold for the longest, and that's not that I did it's not that I didn't like the project. It's just that I got distracted by things that other things that I liked, like wrestling and sports and auditioning for our school play. And then I found like I did things that I wanted to do instead of things that I needed to do. It tends to show up in my grades, but this isn't about me. This is about ADHD and how it can affect someone's day-to-day life. So one way it can affect someone's day-to-day life is make it harder for them to focus on topics and things like that. But it can also make it easier for them to create something that they enjoy, or focus on something that they enjoy, you know? And then there's the fidgeting. They tend to, ah, shit. I don't want to say they, but I don't want to say we. Okay. I'm gonna restart. I'm gonna restart the entire thing. Scrapped. I'm scrapping it. I'm ready. I'm prepared. Okay. Let me go back. Hey guys, this is my video for our content creation project in Mr. Owen's class. My name's Simeon Jenkins, and the topic I chose to do today was ADHD. I chose this topic because it gave me a lot of, like, it was a topic I would be interested in and something I wouldn't just give up on halfway through, you know. Now, I did sort of do this at the last moment, the absolutely last moment. So the information might be a little sloppy or given to you in a unnatural way, but if you guys could just bear with me, and I'll explain it all later in class. You know, like if there's any questions after this presentation, feel free to ask, okay? So ADHD. ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Now, what exactly is attention deficient hyperactive disorder? It's exactly as it sounds. It makes it hard for people to pay attention, but it also makes them hyperactive. Like they move, you won't. There are some people with ADHD where you will see them able to stay still, but that's if they're focused in and lasered in on a topic, or they took some exercises, they did exercises to help them get over the hyperactiveness, but they still may fidget from time to time or have little tells that's like they're moving, you know? And it's actually saying that uh, it helps people with ADHD to like stay focused on a task that they don't want to do if they're constantly moving. Like if they're sitting down in a room, a cubicle where they can't like expel excess energy, it makes it so much harder for them to stay focused and be productive in the task that they're doing. That's why you won't see people too many people with ADHD succeed in a job where you're required to sit down and just take calls or write paperwork or do something like that of that sort. But let me tell you about the different types of ADHD before I dive into ADHD altogether. So, first one, the most common one, the first and most common form of ADHD is called combined ADHD. And that's where you have the hyperactivity, the impulsiveness, you're thinking with, no, you're doing things without thinking of the consequences and how it may affect you or people around you. And you're having trouble paying attention to things that are just, it's easier for you to get off topic, you know, or to wander off into a different topic that you also thought of and you like you saw as interesting and so you brought it up. You're also more likely to interrupt people when having conversations or cut people off when talking so you can get your word in. There were many like, but then there's another type, second type, type 2, where it's you're hyperactive and impulsive, but you're not losing focus. So you're moving around a lot and you have all this energy, but you're not losing focus when there's a task in front of you, you know? Then there is the third one, the third type, where you're losing focus and getting off task very easily, but you're not hyperactive and moving as much. Those are the three main types of ADHD. Another thing about ADHD is it's often paired with another learning disability like dyslexia, or I don't know any other learning disabilities actually. But it's more common for people with ADHD to have another learning disability. It's also often mistaken for as anxiety or depression because the symptoms tend to like connect. So you can't really say you have ADHD without like actually getting diagnosed, and even then it's hard to tell. But it's a lot easier for us to tell now in this day of age where medical science and sciences involving the brain have skyrocketed and made new there were new achievements within that like field of research, you know. it hasn't been until recently after the quarantine where ADHD, people with ADHD have been popping around everywhere in the US, where adults who were undiagnosed in their younger days are now getting diagnosed for it and taking medications for it. Me personally, I don't really agree with the medications because, well, not really. I don't. I'm impartial with that. But some of the people I've talked to who have like kids with ADHD, or some friends I like, some of my coworkers I've talked to who have ADHD, they don't enjoy they don't like the medications given to kids. One of my coworkers is really strongly against the Adderall and giving it to kids because they have ADHD, because ADHD isn't really a drawback. Now, yes, it can be an obstacle for you to overcome, but after you overcome that obstacle, it becomes more of a helper than it helps you more than it harms you. You know what I mean? Like, let's see, people with ADHD are more likely to be nurses or doctors or firefighters or a police officer because their minds are wired to take on multiple things at once. Even though they do get off topic at times, they're naturally used to bouncing from one thing to another. So it helps them when they're doing like fast pace, uh, active jobs because their brains are just built like that, you know? Whereas sitting in a cubicle or sitting in a meeting room will feel like HE double hockey sticks for them, and they'll want to get out of there as fast as possible. Now, this is just from what I've seen from people with ADHD and what I've like experienced myself, but I can't say it for the whole people with ADHD are like that, but from it's more common for them to be like that. But that's also why so many people with ADHD have been popping up around the United States is because they've been really good at hiding it until quarantine, or it's just been like it hasn't been an issue for them until after quarantine, you know, because they were forced to sit down and stay in their house, unable to move too much. They were restricted in their freedoms. Now, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, like I know it all about ADHD because I've literally only watched two podcasts and looked up the bare minimum of information, and I'm more so just putting the information together as I go, right? So, I'm going to try and give you as much information about it as fast as possible, or let me just get to how it can. Oh man, how it can what? Sorry. I'm sort of lost in this right now. Let me recollect my thoughts and my brain all together. Okay. So, I can let me tell you about how back in the day it was seen as hard to say actually. ADHD. I'm going to edit this part out. Okay. Well, instead of talking about the things that how it can affect people or things like that. I want to dive into the actually I think I've said all that I could about ADHD. ADHD is it's not a bad thing, but it also can affect people, many different people in different ways. And so they're trying to make it a spectrum, like autism. They're trying to make it a spectrum type instead of a box where it's like, oh yeah, everyone's losing focus, they're hyperactive, they're unproductive, not unproductive, sorry. And they're stupid. When my sister, who was recently diagnosed with ADHD, is a straight A student and doing fantastic in college. That's because she found her own way of dealing with it. And another precursor, well, this is just a little fun fact, but it is a genetic thing. ADHD is seen in the genetics. If one sibling has it, it's more likely that a sibling with another sibling will have it, right? Same with the parents or the parents' parents. It's a genetic mutation, it's something in the genes. It can also show up after brain injury, like if you had lead poisoning or you got sick as a child, then that also can cause your ADHD to show up or become more prominent in your life. There's also a I'm thinking I lost though. There's also something that I was told about ADHD. I don't know. I'm not gonna try and remember everything. As you can tell, this was kind of sloppy. It's a sloppy put together of ADHD and the information that I found, but I hope I was able to enlighten you more about ADHD. Like, for example, ADHD, people with ADHD, it's just a neurotypical neurological thing, something in their brain that's causing them to act like this. Actually, there's more to say. Sorry, I keep forgetting and remembering. But ADHD, it seemed to have been like it was thought that it's a dopamine thing that's like causing you to act like this or be hyperactive and impulsive and losing focus. So they prescribed Adderall and drugs like that because it boosts the dopamine creation. But with later years of research, it's seen that it's not just things that boost dopamine, but other hormones and chemicals inside the brain that are lacking that cause ADHD and can help uh, limit your ADHD with certain drugs. Now, like I said, you don't have to take drugs to help with your ADHD. Like for me, my mom, she sent me to a school for people who had ADHD and were on the spectrum. So they allowed us to move around and fidget as much as we want as a way for us to focus and learn so we can learn and grow like other people and other functioning people in society. So it's not that bad. But anyway, I don't want to derail and lose focus of what I'm talking about or repeat things that I've already said. So I'm going to end my video here. 46 minutes that I have to edit out. Okay.